Testing. 1, 2, 3. I'm here. And I'm waiting to see if my chat's working. Okay, so we start with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, glory, yours now and forever. In your Son's name, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You will notice that you will not be able to chat unless you're subscribed to the channel. So a lot of you are not going to realize that they took you guys out. That's the reason why I put that in there. Max, are you here? And you want your bone, and you're not going to take no for an answer. Okay, come over here. Come on. No, up here, you crazy dog. Over here. No, over here. Come on. Come on up. Max. No, you got to come up here. You got to come up here. You got to come up here. I don't know why that was so hard for you. All right. Happy Friday. So today I'm gonna get into everything, but we are first gonna read a little bit from John, and I guess this is 11:14 through 15. I'm gonna go into a little bit deeper. Then Jesus said to them plainly, "Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe." Further, you can call this, worship as you work. John 11:19 through 44. After Jesus raised her brother from the dead, Martha finally understood the awesome power of Lord Jesus Christ. She knew that nothing she could do would ever honor him sufficiently, yet also that he would gladly receive anything done for him of a genuine heart and devotion. God invites you to use your gifts to express praise to him, especially if you use them with a grateful, joyful heart. If, however, they become your avenue for which you're seeking acceptance and prestige, as with Martha in the beginning, Luke 10:38 through 42, then they can become a source of bitterness and resentment. Your actions can either proclaim Christ or they can seek your own advancement. You can use your talents with the attitude of praise or an attitude of self promotion. As you express your gifts today, consider your testimony. Will you serve out praise to the Lord, our Lord Jesus Christ, or will you choose to put yourself higher? And you've seen that with a lot of people. Okay. Recently, I posed pictures of my son in a Whiting Field back in the day. My son was a graduate of test pilot school a long time ago, and um, not that many have graduated from that. That I think that he was in class 152 as it was set up. What you have to understand is that only the best of the best go to test pilot school. Okay, and then from there, they're at the top of the aviators, and they fly everything. Okay, I mean, um, here's like a sample of the aircraft that they fly. Everything. My son said some of the hardest stuff he was ever was bigger things because he wasn't used to that. Landing 20 feet in the air, things like that. Why am I showing you this? President Biden is interested now in a wall, and he's interested in preventing um, people from going from south to north of the border. Amazing. Oh, it's not here. It's it's in Afghanistan. Yeah. Here. No problem. Now, if you look at the comment, FUBAR is a term. It's a term that basically came out of World War II. I'm sure it might have been used um, before that. But I have gone through this whole fiasco in Afghanistan and everything else, and I cannot think of a possible way that it could have gone worse, nor could I have thought about the lies that were told to the American people, to Congress, to everything, including he lied on the phone call. On a phone call, he lied. I mean, they impeached President Trump for doing a lot less on a phone call. And he threw his military leaders under the bus. And he lied, said that the equipment was sabotaged and wouldn't work. Well, over 50% of that equipment is now in Iran, including um, Stinger missiles, Laws rockets, extremely high explosives, Gatling guns. I mean, oh my God. So, as a parent of a person who's still in the military and still serving, who knows that their son is going to be called to fly something dangerous in harm's way, it aggravates the F out of me, okay? Because this gentleman doesn't give a doesn't care, okay? And furthermore, like I said, I believe that those things are not only impeachment offenses, but they're maybe even 25th Amendment um, disqualification of mental state. So that's what I see, because he put a target on every single American citizen. He reneged our promises to our allies. He reneged our promises to people who helped us for over 20 years. He destroyed our intelligence base. He destroyed our air power in the area. I mean, and now he basically gave China Afghanistan, which is basically they got lithium, they got all these things that China needs on a silver platter. Very interesting, right? I mean, you couldn't even make it any better than the way it is. Amazing. So here in New York, I didn't lose power. And around my house, I had the only non-flooded basement in Smithtown, basically. um, when I first bought this house, I call it a refit. My sons and I we rented a big excavator machine, and we dug down around the foundation and we put Venus drains in to because I saw like every time it rained it was like an inch 2 inches of water in the basement, and it was just a rain. um so I changed all that, and I also dug down deeper so that there was sand but also Venus drains so the water had a place to go. And we also treated the foundation. And so when it rains like ridiculous, I don't have, I mean, I worry, but there was no water. Thank you. That's not the way it was for most people here on the island. And the weather people say there was like a warning. Um, they were like, it's going to rain, whatever. They weren't really saying the subway is going to be flooded out. The LA is going to be closed. They didn't say this. So they say that you're going to get hit, and I prepare for a hurricane, and it moved to the east, and I was thankful that it moved to the east, but I was still basically prepared to, set everything back up again. And it was windier here for this last ice storm than it was almost a repeat of Sandy, to be honest with you. I mean, um, we felt stuff in our house that we didn't feel since Sandy. So, but thank you for your well wishes and your prayers. I appreciate them. On my Patreon page, I posted some stuff. If they don't want to play through, just click on the YouTube and I'll play on YouTube. The video is from YouTube. And congratulations to my son, my oldest son. And so what this should really prove to you is that the media is totally hypocritical, to say the least. How can they want passes and IDs and you have to show a vaccine card and or an app on your phone to prove your identity and prove you had on the vaccine just to get something to eat? In New York City, this is, and just to get some food or go to a restaurant, something like that. To travel through the air, you have to do this. But yet, in the same breath that they're taking, they're telling black people are too stupid to do this, which is a tremendous insult to black people, by the way, which I know a great many. And so they can't get an ID to validly vote. I mean, the hypocrisy just goes so far. So, as we know, the plandemic, I don't know if you knew this, but I guess one of the first kind of pandemics that was very interesting was smallpox. Um, Smallpox went through our country and other things with a pretty big scourge. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but in the late 1870s, I think it was 1876 to 1877, in the Montana and Dakota territories, basically the Black Hills and other um, mining concerns, there was a breakout. There was a breakout of smallpox, and at the time there was vaccine. Now, if you were born in the East and whatever, you got that vaccine. You got the smallpox vaccine, but um, in the West they only had it available at limited forts. Um, so, but smallpox went on for quite some time, and everybody was very anxious to get that vaccine. Okay, and people who were exposed to smallpox, um, or they went through the disease and they recovered, they were thus immune. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But they had the scars of the smallpox on their face to show that they were immune to the disease. They had it and they lived through it. The Spanish flu, which really started in approximately, I guess, about 1913, and it really ended in about 1918, 1919. Same thing. It took about 3 years for that pandemic to go around the world and go through the things and to able everybody to develop a so-called herd immunity. Um, this Even this Delta variant and what the media is making out of it. There are therapeutics. There's Residuivir. There's other drugs that work um, besides the vaccines. The vaccines, they might not totally give you immunity from getting it, but they greatly lessen the severity of the disease to which that you don't end up in the hospital on a respirator. Okay, you go through the normal paces of getting sick, cough, chills, things like this. That's in the worst cases. Now, the other thing, as I've said to you before, we have a limited time. We had a limited time. Um, the sun cycle is picking up, and we've been hit with some minor CMEs that have caused problems with power systems, problems with certain satellites, um, problems. And some bigger CMEs have been going um, ahead of us in the orbit, behind us in the orbit, and these are big CMEs. So this is not an if, this is a when. Um, a CME is going to come off the sun, and it'll probably be within the next 2.5 to 3 or 4 years, to where it's going to change everything. Okay. Now, this is fact. It's just not. You don't have to take. Gloria DeWitt. You don't have to take the vaccine. I'm just putting it out to you that there's therapeutics. As a matter of fact, the Pfizer vaccine that I took is basically a therapeutic, really. But I just report everything that's going on. I took it, and I had no ill effects or anything like that, but I had to take it. My son was moving, and I had to do it. So I had to help my son. Was asking for help, and I had to help. Done. So it's the way I made the decision. I went into that. But what I'm saying to you is that they're bringing in people from Afghanistan. They brought in some 104,000 people. On there was only maybe 1,000 people were citizens. The rest of them were, who knows what they were, because they still left Americans, a large number of Americans, and a large number of people who helped us. So, and they've been flying them all over the country, just like they've been flying people who were going through the South all over the country. I'm sure that these people have been tested for COVID or really anything, including specific venereal diseases, even tuberculosis. I mean, there's many standards. I mean, the reason why they had Ellis Island set up was not so much to they wanted to welcome America, new people seeking freedom, liberty, and everything else into this country. But you don't want to bring these people in and risk the present population. You want to make sure that these people can support themselves. They have the finances and skills to support themselves, and further that they're not diseased with tuberculosis, for example, which is extremely contagious, with other types of diseases. Okay. So that's what they set up Ellis Island for. Okay. That was one of the biggest things. And they had a whole quarantine section and everything like that. I know for a fact my grandfather went through quarantine. um, the only way that a CME can be prevented is a joint all humanity program, crash program right now. Okay. And I'm not saying it cannot happen. I'm saying that it has to be done by us, China, the whole world. And it's got to be done like right now. Can it be done? Can it be deployed? Do we have the technology? Answer to all of them, yes. By sitting on your hands and not doing anything, you're going to be put into Bronze Age, um, maybe the early Steam Age. Okay, but it'll take time for people even to get up to that technology, because there will be no electricity, there will be no communications, there will be no gasoline, and you see what I'm saying? That's very bad. So that will affect the whole world. Okay, affect China. Who's not? It's not. No, I already gave you one. Go lie down. Go get out and go lie down. It'll affect everybody who has technology. The people in the Amazon who live in huts and who don't have anything, they won't be affected. Biologically, this is not going to affect you. It's just going to affect your technology. It's happened before. The 1859 Carrington event happened. Okay. And there was the aurora borealis down in the lower latitudes. They saw it in Hawaii. They saw it in Cuba. That's big. And the leaves will die underground. If they go underground, they're going to die, because nothing that runs on your electricity, the electromagnetic pulses will go through the entire Earth. Okay, so the Faraday cage will work, but it'll only work to a certain extent and that's if you design it well and ground it and everything else, and then what is the hardware going to work with? Okay, so that's got to be considered as well. There still won't be any power. Um, the elites believe the big lie. They believe the devil's lie. Okay, Satan is not happy until humanity is wiped off the earth. that's that's what people don't seem to understand. So let's go through this nice and safe. No, they won't be safe. There'll be massive earthquakes when the earth flips, and that's not where you want to be. Okay. Um, a cave is where you want to be when there's a micronova, then no question about it. So if you see a halo come from the sun, basically, definitely go into some cavernous shelter, to say the least. But um, again, you got to be at least 2,500 feet or higher, and you got to be at least 150 miles from any ocean. Nope, Guam's no good. I put a video on my Patreon site about safe areas. Okay, so you have to go to that safe area when you see you'll get the notice. If you tune into my channel, I'll tell you when a CME is going to be here. It takes about 14 to 17 hours for that to hit here. You in that 14 to 17 hours, you got to get to a safe place, because after you get there, you won't be able to move. That's it. That'll be the place that you're going to be at for your lifetime. That's what it is. And so that when the earth flips and anywhere to 25, 30 years, I have no idea when, but it's going to be something like this. Happened before. You have to be in an area that's going to be okay with that. So, I posted videos on those. So the first thing, of course, is you got to be saved. But the next thing, you got to remember, we live in a fallen world. So death is around the corner for everybody, unless you fight and you're smart and you try to survive. Now, all these things, unfortunately, this is what's unfortunate, is that they were all avoidable. They were all avoidable. We were the first species at this particular point to be able to become a type 1 civilization. We were that close to it. Biden had canceled all those programs. So when he says to you, he blames Afghanistan on Trump, again, Trump did not have it where he would evacuate, leave like this. There was no plan to leave like this. He had it set up that he was going to leave in May, but his plan was to, of course, evacuate all Americans first, then all of our hardware, then our troops, and then all of our aircraft. Not leave C-17, C-130, pop traggers, you name it there. I mean, between Iran and Afghanistan, they have more Black Hawks than Australia does. And for them saying that they disabled it, which is a lie, they just had a parade where they had Black Hawks flying over it. So, yeah, they have pilots who know how to do this, who were trained by us, by the way, who are now flying for the Taliban. Yeah, and they have parts, they have maintenance sheds, they have all the wonderful things left behind. $32 billion worth of your and I money. And what do? They're going to raise our taxes. They're raising our gas prices. I'm surprised that he didn't blame this on global warming. I'm just surprised he didn't say that the whole Afghanistan thing was global warming. It all go back to that. I'm sure it'll come out. Yeah, it's global warming. That's what did it. Yeah. Well, if you're gonna say he's whatever, huh, I mean, well, I keep going in is how could how could how could somebody who couldn't even pack a gymnasium get 17.5 million votes more than Obama did? He was more popular than Obama. Yet, in his entire history in government, he's been wrong 100% of the time, which means it's impossible. So that means he's working not in your interests. See, so I don't believe this is incompetence. I believe this is treason. Treason. That's what I believe. I believe this is treason on the highest order. And I think if you look at it and you say to yourself, yeah, this is impossible. It's impossible because so many things worked out really great for the Chinese, really great for Iran, really great for the Taliban, really great for now ISIS K, really great for, really bad for the Americans, really bad for the women, really bad for the gays, really bad for all these people that are being killed, including they gave them the list. So yeah, we're talking. I'm telling you right now, I think your average third grader would do better. Okay, that means that there was effort put into being this bad, which means that this is treason. That's what it means. Yeah, I heard the same thing, Tamara, about the hot summer. I heard the same thing about January, at the end of January. I heard the same thing about February, all these indictments. I heard the same thing that yeah, I'm sorry. Fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. I'm not going to be fooled again. Okay. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I don't believe it. And I said to you, and I told you a billion times, and I was right. The ROEs, what's an RE? Rules of engagement on the 20th. The rules of engagements were changed. And they were changed by literally putting every single member in the military, every single American, every single person in danger, okay? In big danger. And you have now seen the proof. What I said to you came true. Yeah, I'm sorry, but the people who were in Gitmo are now on CNN as the leaders of Afghanistan. And I've seen that redhead, her slits, seen them more than once. And it's just insane with every press conference. It's insane, the hypocrisy. on every single level, the lies on every single level. I mean, this is the way the Nazis did it. If you look back, this is what the Nazis did. So no, I'm sorry. I don't subscribe to any of that stuff anymore. I don't believe it. Okay. Um, do I think there was a plan? Did I see the plan? Yes. Did I agree with it? No. I told you guys that a million times. What would have been a good plan? Oh, let's see. On day one, when he was elected, have John and Carolyn come out. Period. Day two, everybody in the world is talking about John. Day three, everybody in the world is talking about John. John could have became the new attorney general. How great would that have been? Okay. It would have set all these Democrats off. It would have allowed Trump to really get things done. And it would have allowed him to vet the people around him much, much better. Because everybody that was in his administration, except for maybe his daughter, as his wife, and his youngest son. I can't say anything bad about Eric. He wasn't in it. He was still in business. So that was, that was it. Everybody else betrayed him. Sorry, Tamara, you're wrong. Nope. Nope. And like I said, it's not going to matter. The time is wasting. Every single second of the day, the sun is getting closer to putting your way of life into the history books, to whether you'll be just an archaeological record, a layer in a sedimentary rock. Because let me ask you a question. Everybody that's here, how long do you think you can last without electricity? 30 days? 40 days? 50? 60? 3 months? 4 months? 5 months? 6 months? How about 2 years? You think you can last 2 years without electricity? You think you can do that? You think you have the capabilities to do it? Remember, no meds, no food. Food is what you've gathered. Do you know how much food and water you have to have 2 months? You ready for this? Tamara, I have a 20 by 40 swimming pool. Not enough water. Nope. Nothing. Remember, no electricity. No heat. Unless you have a fire. Do you know how much it takes to make a fire run 24/7? Even if you have a wood stove, I know. You're going to go through a cord and a half a month to 2 cords a month. And if it's colder, more. Have you put aside 15 cords of wood for the winter? If you're in a climate area that gets cold? And if you're not, if you're in an area where you're depending upon your air conditioner, you're not going to have it anymore. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with the fact you don't have any refrigeration? What are you going to do with the fact you can't get any more prescription drugs? You can't get simple things like razor blades, deodorant. You can't wash your clothes anymore. You have to wash them by hand. And if you're going to wash them by hand, you have to find that water source and you can't pollute it. See what I'm saying? Um, well, the wood's fine, but it's got to be seasoned. Okay, very hard to burn coal. Coal is, especially even anthracite coal. It's very hard to burn it. You gotta have a hot fire. You gotta have a special coal burning stove, and it smells. It smells horrible. Okay. I don't have any contacts with SpaceX. Okay, and you'd be asking Elon Musk to put up some, I don't know, maybe it would cost 50 billion, $60 billion. Wouldn't be that expensive, to be honest with you, because you could do this in orbit, which means you could build a 3D printing plant, robotic factory in orbit, and it would produce these satellites, and it would send them out to the Lagrange one spot, which is a spot that's between Venus and the Earth, in the orbit, and it's before the sun. And with a specific command, it would deploy like an umbrella that would be, um, made out of a specific mylar that's flashed with a metal, probably silver or gold or something like that, and that it would be a conductor, so that the whatever the CME was made out of, whatever charge it would have, polarity, it would be inducing the opposite polarity on that conductor. That would be getting a field effect. It would be getting to make a field in opposition to it, and it would deflect. You can construct it so that it would deflect the CMA, so that it would first hit that, probably take 90% of the CMA away from the remains that would hit the Earth. That can be done. Okay. It could be done, and it will be in place in maybe, I would say, less than a year if you did a breakneck speed project on it. These items were proposed to Trump in a letter amongst the top 5 things that were dangerous to the planet, that myself and other scientists felt that it had to be dealt with beyond anything. Okay. The next was, I asteroids. I did radio show on this as well, and deploying 360 satellites in an orbit, again, in a Venus orbit, to which that it would look back upon the Earth and look for asteroids that pose, or near Earth objects that pose possible collision effects, so that we could go ahead and construct other satellites that would fly out to them and just nudge them. Okay. Everything from solar sails to laser beams to shadowing it to focusing the sun, all kinds of methodologies were talked about. Then there was a supervolcano. Supervolcano, there's basically 3 that we know of. The most famous one is Yellowstone, but there's others. There's there's another one in Malaysia, and there's another one that's in Africa. Okay, and um, the one in Asia and Africa, they don't have the signs to which that they'll have the signs maybe some 120 years. But Yellowstone is different. Yellowstone looks like it can go off within the next decade to decades. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the fact is that you can't tolerate it. It'll plunge the entire Earth into a nuclear winter. Within the first 10 minutes, you'll literally kill 500 square miles of area. Some 2 to 3 million people will die, and not to mention make the majority of the feeding portion and growth portion of our country, the breadbasket, uninhabitable. That's real too. Okay. And again, plans to avert that, like straws with the sideways drilling technology, drilling into the magma field, which is the size of Texas, siphoning that pressure off, harvesting that heat and pressure, and using it to generate power and materials to power over a third of the country. All these things can be done, and they can be done. Yeah, okay. Would that cost about $1 trillion? Sure. But I think it would yield about 5 trillion to $6 trillion. Moreover, if you don't do it, the the, the if when situation is not a good thing. Okay, costs a lot more if that thing blows than preventing it from blowing and harnessing it. I didn't see why we couldn't work together on this, or why we couldn't get together and work together on Fukushima. Why we couldn't get up in front of the United Nations, in front of the world, and do a real thorough presentation and show these threats and how real they are and how we have to stop bidding about what's going on and then show the real data on UFOs, the real aliens, and everything else. Just drop the whole facade and say, look, this is going on. These people are coming here. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, blah, 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 blah. We got to deal with this now. Okay? We got to deal with it. That happened. Didn't happen. Were we told it was going to happen? We were told it was going to happen. At least that part of it. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. Instead, more lies, more subterfuge. I mean, they release all these records about UFOs, showing them that our military pilots have been chasing them for decades. And yet, the one thing where there's a whole bunch of evidence and everything else they say was a weather balloon. They still won't admit the 1947 is real because they'd have to admit about the bodies, the 3 bodies that they recovered, and one of them was alive. Lie. More lies. Well, what they care about is not so much global warming. They care about carbon taxes because it's another way for them to basically skim the top and make more money. Are they paying the carbon taxes? Is Leonardo DiCaprio paying his share of carbon taxes when he flies his private jet around, which makes more CO2 and more carbon emissions than you do in your entire lifetime? Okay, and this is, I mean, forget about it. Okay, I know exactly how much his jet puts out. All right, or even a cabin cruiser. Here's a guy who's got a cabin cruiser. We would call them SHIT BOAT. I mean, I have a sailboat. Okay, and yeah, I have a diesel. My diesel burns like a liter an hour. Okay, and if I burned maybe 25 gallons a year, that was a lot. Power boats of the big cabin cruiser type, they burn 25 to 45 gallons an hour. Okay. We call them stink pots. And that's what they'd have. Everything, generator running, music running, everything loud. Ugh. There's nothing like being on a sailboat when you have everything off. Okay. When my engine's off, I'm just sailing, I'm on attack, and I'm just listening to the water beat against the hull. And I just hear the wind and this little, like it's beautiful. Okay. It's very relaxing. Okay, fine. I'm only doing 6.5 knots, 6 knots, but I can go ahead and get someplace to where that they can't get someplace. Which means, like, I remember one trip I was doing, we went from Greenport to Cockles Harbor, from Cockles Harbor to Montauk Lake, from Montauk Lake to Block Island, from Block Island to Edgar Harbor and Martha's Vineyard, from Edgar Harbor to basically Nantucket. And this big cabin cruiser with a helicopter on the back was following us. And I know because I would stop at all these marinas, these gas stocks, to pick up 110 gallons of fresh water. I would get maybe 2 gallons of fuel to top my tank off. But of course, if you put $5 worth of diesel in, you get access to the water, which is really what I really wanted. Because I'd be there for 15 to 20 minutes filling my water tanks. And I would watch this guy put in $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 worth of fuel, and I ended up tipping the girl more than he did. Okay, yeah, that's what I used to say. Could I afford at the time that kind of boat? No, and even if I could, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't want it. Okay, that's not my style. It's not my thing. Um, the thing about I'll tell you, we had a day. We were sailing back from Providence, Rhode Island, and instead of going through the canal, we decided to go on the outside because of the way the wind was blowing and everything else. And I knew that I could make Cuttyunk, which was an old pirates hangout. Blackbeard just hang out there, but it would be a good sail, about 8 hours. So I'm sailing this thing, and I'm literally on a 180 magnetic, and I get everything out, and I'm just going south. Good wind, good good beam reach, and my sons at the time were young, they're boys. This is about I guess about I think it was 97, and they would snap their life jackets over the safety lines and stuff. So all of a sudden, I realized I'm in a pot of whales. I mean, whale, bad. The guy to my right, okay, he was about 20 feet to 18 feet off my beam. He was at least 40 feet long, and his tail was about 18 feet wide. And you could hear him. His porthole in the top. You'd hear it open, and it was amazing. And his eyeball was like the size of my face, but just put it like sideways like this. And this family were off on my port side. His whole family, I could see calves, and I could also see the other whales. Not as big as him, but still pretty big. So I'm like, I'm not kidding. I said to him, I said, I'm gonna be sailing this heading south. He's looking right at me, and I'm not gonna. This is the way it is, and then I'm gonna turn into going to this Cuttyunk place, and you know, and that's what I'm doing. And you have a nice family, and yeah, it was like father to father kind of moment there, and I said that to him, and he looked at my boys. I saw his eye track, and I saw him look at my sons who were on the starboard rail. Like I said, their feet were over the edge of the boat and on the bow, and they were snapped in. And he like looked at them, and then looks back at me, and then I could see him say, "You too, you know." I'm not kidding. My wife will tell you, it was incredible. Okay. These guys all day, we were the pack all day. And then we turned in, we went into Cuttyunk, and we had dinner and everything else. And the boys went to sleep, and my wife and I were on the deck, and we're We had seat cushions and stuff. We would, lay back like lounge chairs. We're looking up at the shooting stars, and all of a sudden, a whale started whale song because their pod moved into the southwest corner of Buzzards Bay, just on the outside of Cunninghunk, and you could the boat became like a big transducer. It was amazing. And they do a song for about 40 minutes, and then another one would pick it up. And my wife, we it was like a Sail magazine moment. We just couldn't believe it. And I was saying to myself, if I had a generator running like all these other idiots do and everything else, or stereo blasting, I wouldn't have heard this. I would have missed out on this tremendous experience. This um, amazing gift that God gave us that day. And I'm telling you, just like when you stand in front of a person, you're looking into their eyes and you're seeing the gears work, there was no question. I saw the same thing in that well. I could hear him. He was in my head. I'm telling you, even more than any dog I've ever owned. Okay, more. It was just unbelievable. And we've seen whales many times out in the ocean, and they're amazing. There's no question, they're amazing. They're huge. My boat's a pretty big boat. It's a 35-foot yacht, and so when I'm out I'm out on the, yeah, I'll show you. Uh, yeah. Okay, so you can see that big boat. Now, when you're working on it and it's on dry land, okay, it's very big. Not so much when you're in the water, especially when you're out in the ocean. That's small. Like, I'd like to retire on like a 53-foot, 54-foot, something about 20 feet longer, and I'd be very comfortable, not have to worry about anything. But yeah. But my boat, Starlight, she's a good boat, and I'll be refitting her and doing lots of upgrades to it, and then I'll be sailing her next year. And maybe what I'll do is I will put a lottery in it to my Patreon page. We'll see. We'll see how things shape up. Because when you're out in a boat, especially here, anybody that tells you they don't get sick, they're lying. Even I get sick. Okay. But the key is that to be able to work through the sickness so that you're not worthless on the leeward while you're doing something. And you get your sea legs and you just do it. So, but yeah, it can get pretty dicey out there, and it doesn't take long. I think it would have. They say that dolphins and whales. They say that they really like sailboats. Probably because it's a full displacement hull. The quietness of them. I could tell you right now, I could put you on my boat on a good breeze, and in 30 minutes you'll be either excited because I put you on your sheet. You'll be excited because as you grind the sheet and tighten up the sail, it's like putting the gas pedal down. Or if you're just sitting back in my seats, you'll be. I guarantee you'll fall asleep. Not from the rocking. My boat is not a rocking boat. She's a fast boat. She gets what's almost called hard up. her basically her leeward side becomes extremely hard to the windward side becomes extremely hard because she starts healing over and aerodynamics. She's almost like a gyroscope. She's yeah, she does really good in winds over about 9-10 knots to, oh gosh, I've sailed her in 45 knots of wind. I mean, to where I just had a little piece of my January head sail out, and that was it. And yeah, she's a fast boat, but she's really a boat built for like young people, like um, I mean, I had funds. I was gonna buy him this boat, okay, but my stroke wiped that all out. And I was gonna give Starlight to my son Bobby. It's too small for my son James. James James hits his shoulder on the inside. So, um, yeah, James is big, but yep. I love two different things. I love the mountains and I love the ocean. So um, and I like being on the ocean, self sufficient. I like that, and that boat is all set up. What over here? I got it here. Not there. Here. You're crazy. Why you don't like my right side? Oh, because the sun. That's why. Come up here. Let people see you. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Up here. What's wrong with you today? You're crazy. The sun. He hates the sun. He's black. So right here, the sun's beating like you believe. So he doesn't like it. No, no, Sharon, no. I used to crew in a few races. And I've sailed on the Pacific. I've sailed in the Atlantic on different boats. My Starlight, I've sailed only in the Atlantic and really, I want to take it to Caribbean, but I didn't get any further south of the Cape. But I got pretty north. I got up to Bangor, Maine with her. So, and that was kind of wild. I mean, they have a 14-foot tide up there in Maine. I mean, when they say the tide is coming in, they're not kidding. It's just amazing. It's just, I mean, amazing. And all of a sudden, a high tide is 14 feet of water where there wasn't 14 feet of water, and your boat is afloat. I only draw 4 feet of water. There's 10 feet of water in my boat where there wasn't. Amazing. Very interesting up there, the higher latitudes with the tides from the moon. Um, well, the problem is we're not listened to, Tamara. I mean, 3 of these plans were actually proposed by Michio Kaku. He's a doctor, professor, and they're good plans. They're great plans. They're genius plans. They're a lot of visionary, and he got in trouble. He got in trouble to where that he had to change what he was saying in certain respects. So, you know, he took the other road where he started not saying the truth in some respects by not so much lying, but Not saying because of the, well, I call it the theocracy, the corporate theocracy. But my wife and I, we love, and we loved being on the boat with my sons because it's really what made them the men they are today. But more than that, we would spend the whole summer. I would spend the whole summer with them on the boat. And then my wife would take off the month of August and we'd sail someplace. And it was like our summer house. So, and we did everything. We fished off of it, we clammed off of it, we showered, and it has everything, hot and cold running water, everything. Um, two freezers and two fridges. So we was really set up for cruising. Our biggest commodity, our biggest thing that caused us to plan and go into someplace was water. I didn't have water. I didn't have the money back then. A water maker was like almost $18,000. So now, they're much cheaper, and I plan to put a water maker into her. But yeah, it was out of our budget then. And then, where you going to get the power? I didn't have a generator or anything like that on it, so we were going to get the power to run it. So then a solar arch and everything else. I'm going to do that, but it's very expensive. As far as the facts, you got to remember these people were saying to you that Trump was in charge of this whole thing. They were saying to you that this whole thing was a plan. They were saying to you that that Biden is not the president. They were saying to you that he's just there for whatever. They were saying to you that the military is in charge. They were saying to you that, yeah, all those things are false. Okay. This was a coup. This was military leaders reneging on their oath. This was disastrous stuff where you had criminals, essentially, as far as I'm concerned, put into positions of power, including military leaders, and on any other situation, they would have been fired. They would have been fired or sent to Leavenworth or worse. If my son had a record of any operation that went like this, he would be court martialed and stripped of everything. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I know a special forces team which were looking for a misplaced weapon for like 3 days. And the weapon was equivalent to like an A2, for example, which is just one machine gun. This guy misplaced $32 billion worth of hardware. Okay. We're not talking a little bit of hardware. We're talking a lot of hardware. Okay. Criminal treason. To be that nonchalant, it would be a court martial offense for anybody in theater to have lost 1/1 millionth of that hardware. That's on the books. So now X-22 has Davis changed his tune. Now Biden's in control. This wasn't Trump's plan. I don't put the blame on Trump. I put the blame on the people surrounding him and this constant thing that was going on, to which that he trusted people he stuck himself out for. He did not count on Kavanaugh and Barrett to chicken out because of a judge in New Jersey losing a son and having her husband become a paraplegic, which was a direct threat. The reason why that happened was directly against Kavanaugh and Barrett, so that they would fall in line. When Texas has no standing. What? The Constitution was not followed. How do they have no standing? The Constitution is federal. The only court in the land is the Supreme Court. You have to listen to it. The non-standing remark was a result of that New Jersey judge, and that's why that was picked on. Now they got these people because I'm sure that they recorded all of it. If you don't do this, this will happen. I'm sure that was recorded. Did they have the faith of the Lord, our God, that they swore an oath to? I will not renege my oath. I am going to trust and believe in Lord, my Savior, to protect me from doing the right thing. And if he doesn't protect me, I know that my family will be in the hands of my Lord. I know that God exists. That's the way you have to approach it. Our military leaders should have used the word Jesus. They should have used the word Jesus. They should have called upon our King and Savior as help, not give in to this evil. We don't have the time to wait for mid-elections, for elections. We don't have the luxury of a 4-year thing. Not when a CME can put us into the Stone Age literally in the next 2 years. No. Bed. Enough. Bed. And that's the truth. I told you guys the truth when the time ran out. You all argue with me. Well, that's not the case. Bob, you preach the wrong thing. I'm telling you the truth. The truth is never wrong. This is a fallen world. It won't be an unfallen world until the second coming of our Lord. Do I believe that we're in the end times? Yes. We've been in the end times since 1947. Did it have to be this way? No. That's why I'm so frustrated. It didn't have to be this way. Didn't. Things could have been done to circumvent this. Before the 2020 elections, a whole new system could have been put in place from the thievery of the 2018 elections. A system to which that everybody uses all the time. They feel no problem doing it. Brothers and sisters, all races, all sexes of types, whatever, use ATMs all the time, and they have no problem with them. A card could have been issued to everybody who is a registered citizen to vote. You take that card, you go down to your voting place, you stick it in the machine, you put in your code, you put your hand on the thing, it does a biometric, make sure that you takes your picture. You then fill it out. It prints out the first one, which is just a sample, but you're sure that it's right. Then it prints out your actual voting card. Okay? Prints it out. Again, you make sure it's right. Submit. Submit it here on the ATM thing electronically. You then take that sheet, which is printed and filled out. You walk it across the floor. You stick it into the scanner. Separate system. It's then scanned. That county must corroborate on the two separate systems or hand count. No fans of bus would 100% work. If you ask a computer person who does this for a living, like myself, who used to do it for a living, that's what you design, that's what you do. Two separate systems, they join and they meet. It's fast, simple, works. Those types of systems are set up for blind people, are set up for deaf people, are set up for people who are handicapped. They must be, because of the AGA, they must be, and also the ADA, they must. If you notice, in every single bank that you go to, there is a ATM that's specifically designed to be accessed with wheelchairs, person's got braille on it. The technology is already here. Do you think this is my plan? Ready? No. It is President Trump plan back in 2005. 2005. He was complaining in 2005 about the administration of elections throughout the country and why it took so much time and everything else. He says it's 2005. This is ridiculous. We go to the ATM every single day. This is ridiculous. Tamara Keller, wrong. God is on the throne, but God is not, I repeat, not in control of the free will test that you are taking presently. When you're sitting in this reality listening to me, you're currently taking a test. If you're alive on this planet, you're taking a test every single day. Everything that you're doing is being recorded. You will have to account for this when you die. Everything you'll have to account for when you die. That's the test. Cindy Fry, 2005. It was done on an interview on some channel. It might have been Oprah, it might have been somebody. I don't know what it was. And I don't know. It was about some kind of election mishap or whatever. It was like in one of these backward states where it was going to committees or some kind of thing, and it was taking forever. And there was, suspected fraud or whatever. There was. And he was like, why don't they do this? Why don't they use ATMs? At that particular time, ATMs were around since like 1980. Okay. And he was like, they've been around for like 20 years. It's proven technology, 20 years. No, nothing racial about it. It's 20 years. He's right. He was right then. He should have pushed that agenda. All these things should have been first and foremost. Okay? He's not perfect. Again, I don't fault him at all. He couldn't take a piss or a crap without being criticized. every single 24-hour second of every day, he was being criticized for something. So you can't put any demands on somebody like that. I mean, like I said, he couldn't pee in the toilet without being wrong. Nope, nope. Yep, it didn't. You weren't perfect. Nope. I mean, the hypocrisy of the media is insane. Now you have a perfect thing. He made a call. He told the guy to lie. Biden told the guy to. It's on the transcript. Please, you got to lie. This looks bad. You got to lie. Trump is the first president we've had in long time that wasn't on the grift. That had literally no agenda. Okay, there was one agenda: make the country better, and he was doing it for one reason. I told you guys this. I found out what it was. It was the outtakes of the 2020 interview with Barbara Walters, and I'm looking at these outtakes, and if the suit was $6,800, that's the cheapest price. He's on all fours, and his grandkids are crawling all over him like a jungle gym, and he's smiling from ear to ear. And I was like, that's why he's doing this. Because I couldn't figure out why he wanted to ruin his life to become president. And I'm all of a sudden, oh, you're doing it for them. That's why you're doing it. He also knew that if he said that, nobody would believe him. That order was countermanded, dear Matt S. No. Basically, in the first 36 hours, every single solitary executive order that Trump put down was changed. It just say it's your religious right. It just declared on your First Amendment. This total First Amendment issue. Margaret Austin Cantor says, Bob, how can people get out of a mandatory vax? Very simple. First Amendment. That's concrete right there. Just say to them it's against my religion to take that vaccination. Done. You don't have to say anything else. Done. I mean, if somebody wants to, I'm gender fluid, and you got to use depending on the wrist color that I'm wearing, you have to know what pronouns to use in that moment. Otherwise, I get offended. Yeah. So if somebody can say that, I don't understand why I can't go into Citibank and say that I'm worth $15.2 billion and I just want to take 10% of my holdings out. What's the difference? I just want $150 million. You know, that's all. The rest, I assume, is going to stay there for interest. Yeah. And I don't also see the problem where I can't have a Baconator and tell my doctor I'm only 200 pounds. I don't care what that scale says. That's fake science. No, I believe I'm 200 pounds. So I'm gonna have a Baconator. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, not 200 pounds. Okay. Well, one of the reasons you have to understand, people, listen to me. One of the reasons why they've been letting the open south borders and then bringing all these people in and moving them all over the country, where they've been moving to. They've been moving all these people into the swing states. Why? Well, because these swing states, they had laws that have changed in the voting things, and also the congressional districts have changed because of the census. So they know that they can't do the same kind of thing they did before with these open mailboxes and everything else and whatnot, because how much longer can they run this pandemic? They can't run it for another three years, right? Instead, no voter ID, no voter ID. And you can have counties where they have more votes than people, which they had in this last election. That's why they're moving, okay? Because anybody who's got a pulse knows where it really is up. But these people, they've been brought into this country and they know that they want to stay here. And if they're going to stay, they know they have to jump through the hoops because they're essentially worse slaves than you and I are. We're slaves to the fact that they're raising the prices on everything, and everything's costing more and more money. Thus, we're being poor and poor and poor and poor. Okay? First Amendment applies to the jab. Same thing that the Amish. There's also other religions that don't believe in any medical treatment whatsoever. I personally believe that too. Okay, if somebody doesn't want to be medically treated, fine. If they have an extremely contagious disease, by law, they have to be put into quarantine for 40 days. That's the law. Okay, that's not giving them a shot. That's not whatever. That's putting them into a quarantine. That's what quarantines were set up for. You don't quarantine healthy people. You quarantine the sick. Um, it's NA now. All the programs were stopped. Biden stopped them. He stopped the fusion program. He stopped the superconducting program. He stopped the fly research program at Oak Ridge. He stopped the other program at Berkeley. He stopped the Navy plane that we had over China. He stopped the weapon system that we had over China. He he canceled all of it. He canceled so many programs. Basically, the Navy is going to be in attrition next year. It's going to be like a sequester, like it was underneath Obama and Biden. And I know this for a fact because my son went through that whole thing. It was just awful. And I know of his classmate and the guy who went through flight school, and the kid hit the water at over 900 knots. And it was because of a faulty CME, and the CME was because it wasn't a brand new one. It was one that was taken out of a jet that was being used for parts for other jets. That's how bad it was because they had to fly specific missions. So fine, you want to sequester the Navy, you want to sequester what's going on, you want to, then fine, then keep up our people home and don't put them into harm's way, and don't put them in the harm's way with faulty equipment, aging equipment. Nope. I'm going to explain something to you. This is God's plan. This is God's plan. Okay. The fallen world that we're in is, and the things that are being done by evil is not God's plan. Okay. It is a test. What are you going to do about it? Now, will God come in and help you if you pray for that help? I'm a witness to that. He's done tremendous things in my life. I died. I was dead for a long time. He brought me back. He cured me of many illnesses. It's documented. But there's a limit. He's I don't want all the answers because I don't learn anything from him giving me the answers. I pray for wisdom. I pray for truth. I pray for all those things. But if I don't do the hard work, if I don't read this and I don't look at this and I don't do the hard work in my research and my calculations and everything else, I don't grow. I don't, there's no shortcut. There's no cheat sheet in the back of this to give you the answers. This is a test. Okay? This is a test. There's going to be, you're saying to me, why are these horrible things happening? They happen because these people did not, I repeat, in key situations where they were put into a pivotal position to do something, to literally hold the line. 1,000 National Guardsmen were sworn in as and deputized as marshals. On the 20th, they could have made those arrests. They had the authority to do it. All they required was our leaders to follow the law. More so, declare it in the name of Jesus Christ. Get thee hence, Satan. Did they do that? No, worse. They took their parachutes. Where are they? You think they're suffering this insanity? Nope. Nope. Do I blame Trump for that? No. Could he have anticipated it? I think that's asking too much. I think that he did better than any human I know. Really. Honestly, he did better than anybody I know. But he did not have enough people pointing up to the heavens and declaring Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior and saying, this far and no further. I go back to Kavanaugh and Barrett. All they had to do was listen to the case. Texas had an extremely compelling argument. Valid. Now they've been co-opted forever. And that could be held over their head. We know about Roberts. Yes, there's a picture of him and Bill on Epstein Island. We know about a lot of other leaders in that wonderful logbook. We know about a whole Senate of Republicans who didn't raise their hand, who should have on January 6th. Did they? They didn't. Did they take an oath? Yep. Did they let evil by? Absolutely. Was it on their watch? Yep. Did they do the right thing? Nope. They didn't do it. These are facts. Facts that I told you a long time ago. I knew that something was wrong and that everybody else was not correct when I told you that the ROEs were changed. I know what's involved to change them. And I know that the ROEs are in place now literally are the reason why those 13 Marines are dead and those 18 others are hurt. Why others are rolling in their graves. Why other secret sites have been overrun. And our spies in that country were beheaded and killed. Oh, you have no idea the kind of stuff that I know, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's all done. You think they're going to pay. How? How are they going to pay? By you sending a drone in and saying, these people are planning something? 95% of the people in there are planning something. It's not hard to shoot at somebody and say, well, they were planning on doing something. Who was it? Well, we really don't know who the names are, but they were definitely planning. Unbelievable. It's throughout. This is the kiss of it. You ready? They are going to be hurt. The Charlie Pauls of the world, the Putins of the world, all those other tyrannical regimes are going to be hurt worse than we are because they have corruption, they have inefficiencies, they have all kinds of lies that are being told about everything that they being done, and they've had to deal with that kind of corruption and that kind of all kinds of things. And when the CME hits, that's going to put us into the Stone Age. It's going to be worse for them. It's going to be the ones who are going to be the best, believe it or not, probably Europe. They have the least amount of north and south running electrical lines. Most of their lines are running east to west. We're going to be hurt pretty bad. Australia's going to be hurt pretty bad. Russia's going to be annihilated. China's going to be annihilated. Japan is going to be, that's the end of it. Island nations are going to be, it's not going to be good. And the other thing you have to consider is where are they going to get the power for the nuclear reactors? Basically, high pressure reactors go through 1 million gallons an hour. And if they don't have access to that cooling water, which are run by pumps, which is electricity, you see what happens. Fukushima happens. That's goes whether they're on or they are off because they have 35 years next to them of spent pools, rods that are filled up in those spent pools that are decaying and they get hot and the water has to go in there and yep. What was the ingenious of that? No, Cindy. I mean, it's all hard up. Internet service from balloons. It's theoretically possible, but it's not practical. The Starlink system is kind of practical, but not if the sun decides to have a fart. The sun has a full-fledged CME. Everything will be screwed. So, no, it's not fishy. It's just basically more control. They realize the social media thing is addictive. They realize that people are beginning believe the propaganda. They don't think. And yeah, they're telling you and me that Biden has a 43% approval rating. Do you really believe this? I think that Biden's approval rating, reality-wise, 18%, tops 20, if that. You're going to tell me you think a Democrat believes that this was 100% successful and, it's great. It's wonderful. Do you really think this? I know Democrats. I mean, I know loyal jump off the bridge ones, and they're not saying shit. Nope. It came in from the immigrants. And I put it to you that a lot of it is not COVID. A lot of it is a variant of the flu. There are flus, such as the swine flu, which was under Obama's watch, which are deadly. Okay. Now, it describes on exactly how the beast is going to go down and what is going to happen beforehand. And we're not there yet. All the bowls have not been filled. You people who believe in tribulations, I'm sorry, I disagree with you. That's not what it says in here. Okay? It says we have to survive and we're going to be seeing all these things happen. It's our prayers, just like the ones in Exodus, that brought about all those things and plagues to happen. God didn't want to do those things. Those things he was doing because he was answering the children of Abraham in their prayers to release us from bondage. I'm going to tell you, the revelations and the tribulations and these things are going to be brought about prayers from me and others, because I can't stand this insanity. I hate it. Have you been praying for Jesus to come? I have. I've had enough. I don't want my grandchildren to go through this insanity. It's important to pick the right pronouns. You will not use the wrong pronouns on me. This is insanity. These enemies are laughing at us. From every single corner of the world, they're laughing. My sons have been all over the world. They're both extremely thankful to be here. They have both told me that people, 100% of the people, if they were in the places that they've been to, would not have any more doubts about anything after seeing the stuff that they've seen with their own eyes. Nothing compares to the stuff that they've seen. Yikes! Sorry to hear that. I've received the jab. I have no problems with you getting. Like I said, I had to get the Pfizer vaccine. I had to help my son. I made the choice. I prayed about it. I had to do it. It was important to me and to do that. It's important to him to do that. I don't, Trump did all he could and he gave it his best. What else are you going to ask for anybody but their best? He was betrayed on every single level, all the time. There wasn't a night that he could go to sleep. I'll tell you where Trump made a mistake, and the, the biggest mistake he made was he didn't get a dog. If he had a dog, he wouldn't have made, you know, a lot of other things because the dog would have told him who the heck is in his camp and pointed out those traitors. I guarantee you, dog would have done that. Dogs know. They know better than anybody. They really do. It's amazing. It saved a lot of time. And then the other thing is, John Schiff came out immediately. Period. This is why I got elected right here. He's the reason. And gone through the whole thing. Okay. Dog. Some dog in the shelter, some German Shepherd, whatever in the shelter, whatever. Go there with his son. So many dogs is unbelievable. But definitely that should have happened. Gloria Diva. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. Okay. I'm a scientist. So I do know a couple of things. I know, for example, it's impossible to stop 130 nanometer virus, 125 nanometer virus, something like that, with a mask that can only stop even an N95. Say you have an N95 mask, which can stop 20 microns. Still can't stop the virus. Okay. Microns is different than nanometers. Billionths, millions. So, what is the purpose of these masks if they're not for stopping and preventing this disease? Because they can't. They will not prevent the disease. Mm-mm. If anything, they will make it worse and they will expose you to other diseases like other bacteria and other types of pneumonia and other things. That is a scientific fact. I want to see where the peer review white papers that show me that those masks prevent COVID. I want to see it because it's not possible. That's the science. Okay. It's like trying to stop a mosquito from going in your house. You decided to put screens up, but the screens are the size of a 1-inch chain link fence. That's the ratio, literally. I'm not kidding. How many mosquitoes do you think you'll have in a house that's exposed like mine to the woods? I have screens on my windows, but my screens are down to a 16th and a 32nd of an inch. Stops mosquitoes. No good in Florida, though, because the no-see-ums will go right through that screen. If I'm going to paint a plane with Emerald paint, I used to paint Emerald paint. You had to don a full outfit of Tevlex, okay, and a hood, painting hood, which was powered, and it had big respirator system on it and everything else, and that's what you did, okay. If you breathed any amount of that paint, you'd die from emphysema because the paint would, as an epoxy paint, it would go into your lungs and harden, and that alveol that's in your where that paint went in is non-functioning as soon as that paint hardens up. That's the way it is. So, as far as I'm concerned, until the elections are of the order of the ATM system that is foolproof with two separate systems, you get an ATM card, $1 on it. Here it is. Stick it in. Pick that who you want. It prints a sheet, prints your voting sheet. When you approve it, okay, it's good. Submit it. Then you walk across the floor, stick it into the scanner. That two separate system election system, which is easier than anything else, that will work. That'll stop all the fraud. It'll stop a lot of mistakes. It'll give you a fast account. It'll work. It could be nationalized in no time. The hardware all exists. Our banks use it every day. Every day. So, what am I lying about, Richie Rich? What am I lying about? You didn't want to call me up on my phone. You didn't want to debate me live on the air. I called you and I said, "Fine, call me. We'll set up a time." I gave you my email. You didn't send me anything. As far as I'm concerned, you're just nothing but hot air. I think masks are being put on people to hide the true terrorists, the true antifada, the true people who are going to do harm, the true foxtrots that are about to happen. The chaos works for them. It works. It works for the agenda, and it pushes the narrative of you need to get rid of those guns. You need to because you got to be safe. You got to be safe. And I always think of a quote from a very famous person who said, "If you trade liberty for safety, you neither have safety nor liberty when you're done." That, of course, was from a very, very famous scientist who was really brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And I still use many things that he invented, including my wood stove, and that was Ben Franklin. I have no idea. I stopped. I like I said, as far as I'm concerned, he was a patriot. He was a good American, and bad people took over his channel and then corrupted it. They did it on purpose, and they also allowed him to get back into the booze. So, in order to quantify anything, you'd have to revet every single video that they did. So then, as far as I'm concerned, I did not have the time. I do not have the time. I have projects I'm working on. This Richie Rich person said that he was a mathematician. I honestly would forego any disagreement and opinions about anything to get somebody to actually help me with my problem. I mean, even if I have to explain to them my problem, sometimes that is enough to trigger an idea bulb to go off in my head. I've done that many times in my life. I have not been able to get anybody on that level. Well, you notice that there was not, like I said, the swine flu was influenza too. There was not any flu deaths last year. 160,000 flu deaths just off the table. Amazing, right? What happened to the flu? And the flu does take its share of old people. Now, granted, I believe that this was a first strike. I believe that this thing came from a lab. I'm going by the expertise of others who've told me, who literally are expertise in their field. And they have literally explained to me and shown me um, the splice marks. And there is no way that can be done naturally. And there's no way. I mean, I'm a layperson when it comes to looking at this, and I'm a layperson. I can see it. How could these doctors say this? and then looking at the history, Fauci and everything else, how come no investigative reporter has looked into the history of this guy and seen what was going on? I mean, a mask does work, okay? It does, yeah. A full face respirating mask, and probably one that's powered, because you're going to have low oxygen levels breathing it on your own if you're not used to it. But you have to remember there's ACE receptors in your eyes and stuff. I mean, you have to look at the kind of PPE they do in these class 4 labs. So if you're not wearing the same kind of PPE gear that they wear in these class 4 virus labs, then you're not protected. The next best protection, believe it or not, is the sun, the outside. Viruses can't do very well in UV. They can't do it. I have no idea. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. But I can tell you one thing. How can you go and all of a sudden, the day our beloved governor resigns, the next day, 12,000 more deaths? Wow. 12,000 more deaths? You were off by that much? That's 12,000? I don't need a program. I need a mathematician. I guarantee I made a mistake someplace, and I don't consider myself a mathematician. I mean, okay, do I know math and calculus? Yeah, but I don't know it to the extent of my son, and I don't know it to the extent of others, but I know enough to get myself in trouble. So, and I know I'm making a mistake someplace, and maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just missing something. I don't know. That's why I need. That's why I need help. Yeah. Anyway, baby, ending this. I want you guys to have a wonderful Labor Day. I want you to be safe. I'm going to be doing a 9/11 special. It's going to be 20 years to where I almost lost my wife. And a lot of friends that I know died that day. So I want you guys to take Jesus into your heart. I want you to realize that we're not alone. I also want you to realize that we're in a test. And it's easier to take this test together. God didn't say that we can't take this test individually. He said, this is it. So we can work together. And if we do work together, more of us will pass the test. Anyway, God bless. Be good. Be safe.